Hello, my dear friends. A very warm welcome on another session for Salesforce Advanced Admin Sessions. In today's module, we are going to do another automation process that is an approval process. In the previous two modules, we have covered about workflows and process builders. Hope you guys have created your own workflow with all the actions that we have done, and also for the process builders, all the actions that we have performed, right? Hope you guys have done it. So starting with today's presentations, we will be working on approval process. So let's begin. What is an approval process, right? And how can we create any of the approval process? That's what we are going to cover in today's presentation. Okay, let me give you an example. Suppose within your organization you have availed for a taxi service from traveling from your home to office. Okay, and you have submitted the amount within the portal. Okay, will that amount will be directly given to you, or it is going to be approved by your manager? Right? It is going to be approved by your manager, and when your manager approves, then only you can get that amount reimbursed. So, how we can automate this process? This is what we are going to do in today. Okay, you submit your application, right? And that goes directly to the approval of your manager. If he approves or is he rejects, that's on his wish. So when he approves, a email notification will be sent, or any other action that we want to perform, or in that record saying that it's approved, a text message or a field update can be done, and depending on that the claim will be reimbursed to you. Okay, so let's begin. What are all the actions and what are all the approval processes that we are going to do? An approval process is a combination of steps for a record to be approved, and a person has to approve it in each and every step, right? It is going to tell us that which record needs to be approved and who is the person who is exactly going to approve your process. Okay, the system might ask you about there is a predefined person who approves for all the finances, then they can select that particular person. Or suppose there are n number of teams within a project, and your manager, you have a specific manager. Each and every individual or a group of 5 people have a manager. Okay, so you have a liberty to select in manually who is going to approve your application. Okay, this is what we can do within our approval process. An approval process also specifies the actions to be taken when a record is approved, rejected, recalled, or first submitted for approval. There are some actions that can be performed depending on different state. If it's approved, what do you want to do? If it is rejected, what do you want to do? If you are recalling an approval process, what things that you need to do? Okay, or when it is being first submitted, what do you want in that particular record to do? You do not want to change it. That's the first thing that we want. Whenever you have sent it for approval, you do not want the record to be edited, right? So we have a following steps in exact performing of our approval process. So we need to have an entry criteria. Okay, we need to specify the manager and all those things, or any other criteria. When you have something called taxi, you need to start an approval process, anything sort of thing. Okay, or you have an initial submission actions whenever you have submitted some approval process, and you want that record should not be edited, so it can be an initial submission action. Or you want to send an email to your manager or to yourself that you have submitted this application, or this approval process. This is what is being done in the initial submission actions. Okay. Approval steps says that which person you want to select in, or what things that you want to do with the approvals. We can have n number of steps in here. Okay. The final approval action, that if your claim is approved by all the processes, what do you want to do? You need to send an email to the finance team saying that for this person, this and this claim should be approved. Okay. Or if it is being rejected, final rejection action, that the claim has been rejected, and these are all the documents that you need to provide for further approvals or for further submission, right? Or this is an invalid claim. So the managers or the CEOs or anyone can, in the hierarchy, reject your approval process. So without wasting any time, we will go to an org and we will create our own approval process. Okay. So I'll go to setup. We will be creating, okay, I'll go to setup first. On setup, I will type in approval and approval processes. Okay. I will create a new approval process. There are two types of approval process. One is a jumpstart wizard, in which there are some predefined things that we do not need to specify in. Or if you want to understand from scratch that what all steps that are being involved in the creation of an approval process, we'll go with the standard. I'll show you guys again. We will go with use standard setup wizard. I'll click on that. I'll select a process name. First approval process. Okay. I'll click on next. I will select an entry criteria. That's what we discussed, right? The first step that we are going to do is we need to have a specific criteria on which that approval process needs to be submitted. Okay. 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 I'll create one again. Before starting, on which object you need to specify in, right? We need to select the approval process for which object. This thing I missed, sorry, my mistake. We can create an approval process on any of the objects that you want within your org. Any object that you want, you can create an approval process on that. I will create one approval process on client object. Okay. And again, I am going to go the use standard approval process. I'll give in the name first process approval process. Okay. I'll go on next. Now I am creating an approval process on client's object. Okay. And I'll on which criteria we want. Okay. Firstly, I'll create a amount field in this. I'm opening it in a new tab. I'll create a field called amount in it so that we can apply a filter on that particular field. Okay. View fields. I'll create one. I'll create one currency field and I'll go next. Amount. I'll specify. Okay, I'll do it to 5 and 2. I'll make it visible for all the profiles. You guys are pretty much clear about how we can create a field, how we can update a field, and anything, right? I have added this to the page layout of the particular object, and you can see I have an amount field in there. I can select some value and can add those. So I'll run the approval process. I will have to refresh it first, then only it is going to reflect in here. We will create it again. Okay. Now I can see the amount field now. Client amount should be greater than, suppose, 1K. If the amount is greater than 1K, then only it is going to be submitted for the approval process. If the amount is less than 1K dollars, then it is submitted. It is, we do not need to go with the further entry criteria of that particular approval process. I'll go on next. See, the approval process that we have specified in, we can have the formula evaluates to true. It is going to give me the same formula builder that we see within our validation rules or formula fields or anything, right? We have this in multiple places. In process builder, we also saw that how we can enter the criterias with all the operators, and we can add in multiple operators and can change those and operators by adding a filter logic in here, specifying one or two, one and two, anything, right? Okay, we will go on next. We have only one criteria. Next, automate approval process is determined by, we can specify any hierarchical field, or we can specify the manager, the standard user field. Okay. Record editability property. Only an admin can edit the records during the approval process. No other person can, the admin or the currently assigned approver can edit during the approval process. We can select or any of the criteria that we want after it is being, as I told you, after it is being submitted for an approval. No one can edit that record. Okay, the person who has filled in do not have a liberty to edit the record unless after, no, even after approval we cannot edit that record. Only an admin or only an admin or the current approver can edit or unlock that record and can do the editing. Okay, you want the admin to do it, we can select though that. We'll go next. We can specify any email template whenever we are sending in a notification needs to be sent, right? So we can send in, attach an email template. The selected email template that we use to notify approvers that an approval request has been assigned to them. Okay. I do not have a specific email template. We will select anyone, any email template, first custom template that we have built in. We can select that. Okay, or we can specify any email template saying that your approval, you have been assigned an approval process. We can create a template. I have shown you guys how we can create a template. You create your own templates and can put in here. Select fields to display an approval page layout. Whenever the person who is approving it, which all fields he can see. This is what it is being shown in here. Client name, owner, I can email address, these things I have selected in. Apply, allow approvers to access. These are the security settings that we can see in here to access the approval page only when within the Salesforce applications. Okay. We have selected in which fields or which layout the approver can see before accepting or rejecting. So this is a view he can view in. Okay. So we will go on next. Initial submitter. Who do you want the person should be the initial submitter? Using these options below, specify which users are allowed to submit the initial request for approval. Okay. We have selected the client owner. He can submit for the approval process. Okay. We can specify any roles or public group or user who can submit that particular record for approval. Okay, this is on our end. Who do we want? The person who is creating a record should be able to submit, or the admin can submit, or any other person or your supervisor can submit on behalf of you. This is what we can see in the initial submitters. Okay, we can define within the role hierarchy that the person above me can also submit approval process on my behalf. Okay. Allow submitters to recall the approver's request. This is what we can also select and can see. If I want to, if any of the person who has submitted the approval process can recall that approval request. Okay, I am going to save it. This is what we have done in the initial phases. You have created an approval process. However, you cannot activate the process until you have defined one approval step. Would you like to do that now? I'll show you. I'll do it later. Okay. Approval process of the detailed page. Yes, I would like to create. Yes, I'll do it later to take me to the detail page or take me to the list on that particular object. I'll go to the detail page. Okay. I'll show you what we have done till now. Okay. We have created our approval process. We have specified the name, the unique name. It is not being activated yet, and we do not have a button to activate it yet, since we need to have some approval steps. So next, the manager of a record submitter, he's going to get the next approval step. Entry criteria, we have specified that the amount should be greater than 1K. Okay, record who can edit it, only the administrator can edit it. Email template we have specified, one we have created prior. I have selected that, but you can create your own custom email templates saying that uh, you have been assigned, the so and so person has been assigned an approval process. Okay, initial submitter, the client owner itself. Okay, the record owner, he is able to, or he or she is the initial submitter of that particular process. Initial submission actions, what I told you, record lock is the default initial submission action. We can add some new actions, that's our wish. We can send in an email template, we can update a field, we can send an outbound message. Outbound message, where did we see? We saw that in our workflows that whenever we want to send something to an external file, then we use, or external system, then we use an outbound message. So we can update a field. I'll update one. Um, approval update field. I'll specify initial submission IS. Okay. Because we are going to update the field in our final submission also, so that we can get a clear picture of it. Okay. Field to update. We can specify the client name, owner, amount, approval field, or email for. This is what an email field we have. I have created, before the presentation, I have created one text field for named as approval field. This approval field is a text field, okay? And what message we have to send in there, that's what I want to write in that text field, okay? I'll specify the value as record submitted for approval, okay? This is just the initial step, right? I want that on every step we will be able to see that what change have been done. I'll save this action. Okay. Okay. We need to have that in double quotes. It's a text message, right? Right. It's saved. Field update, initial submission action. Right. On initial submission, the record will be logged. We will not be able to edit since I'm the approver of that. So I'm the admin and also the submitter, so I'll be able to see the record unlock button, but I'll show you that the record will be logged if any third person who is not the system admin is going to submit, right? Now I'll show you the approval process. The final approval action. Final approval also says that lock the record, okay? And what are we going to do? We can send in an email template. I'll select that one, okay? Final submission email. I'll select in any of the template. You guys can easily create a template. I'll select the same one. You guys can select a different email template saying that your claim has been approved, saying so and so, right? We can send the message to that email field that we have, okay? We can send that to this person, or we can send to a particular user, or we can send it to a finance team guy that we have, right? We can send it to any particular person. And in the same way, we have the 5 email templates who we can send that email to, right? So I will save this email template and it is being added as an email alert, final submission email. I can update a field also. I'll update the same text field, approval update, final submission, okay, FS. Now I'll update the same field, that is approval field, to final approval done, okay. I will save this field update. Now you have the initial action done, you have the final approval action done, okay. Final rejection also we can do it. Now I'll select an approval step, okay. I'll select first approval step, step number 1. I'll go next, okay. Now what do we want? All the records should enter this step, or do we want when the criteria is met to then enter into that particular approval process? Okay, that step we can specify initial entry criteria we had, and other than those entry criteria we can have that every record should be entered into that particular approval step, okay. Or we can have that all the records that are being entered with the entry criteria to be passed through this approval process. It's on your wish, right? I'll click on next. I have entered that every record should be entered into that particular approval process. Now we can have that who is going to approve that particular approval process. We can have the submitter choose the approver manually. Okay, suppose I gave you an example. Suppose a group of 5 people have a particular manager, another group of 5 people have a particular manager, right? And those people should be able to select which um, who is going to be your manager, right? They can select it manually or automatically assign the user field selected earlier. Okay, or automatically assigned to a queue. We can assign it to a particular queue, and there it can be further assigned depending on the resource availability or any other criteria. Automatically assigned to approvers. Okay, we can specify in approver. Okay, automatically assigned to approvers says so before starting with before telling you about this uh, automatically assigning, let me take you to the presentation and tell you what are the different types of approval processes. We have multi-step approval process. Like we are creating our first step, we can have n number of steps for our approval. Okay. The next says a parallel approval process. Okay. A unanimous response or based on first response. So if we see in automatically assigned to approvers, okay, we can specify in which all approvers that we can have within our criteria. Okay, I want that these are the two users, they both or anyone, if they approve, then it should be approved. Okay, now when multiple approvers are selected, approve or reject based on the first response. So the first both of them will be sent for the object to approve. If Ishan accepts and approves the process, it is going to approve if we select in this. Use require unanimous approval from all selected approvers, means both of them, if they approve, then only the process is going to pass. Okay, this step is going to approve. You got it right. The parallel approval process depends on the first response or the unanimous response. Okay, the majority of the people need to accept the approval process. Skip step approval process says, suppose I have built a criteria. Okay, I'll go to the previous step for explaining you that. I'll go to the previous step. In this criteria, I have accepted all records should enter this step. Okay, and I went next. In the next step, we had to select that who is going to approve. Now, if I want none of the person to approve it, then I'll enter in the criteria and say in if the amount field is greater than 1k, then what should you do? Approve record. Then I'll go next and I do not need to select any process. Okay. Okay, we can go and save it. We do not need to specify that who is going to approve it. It is going to be automatically approved because the criteria is met. If the criteria is met, then it's going to be approved automatically. You can see the criteria is met. What should we do? Approve record or reject record. If it is approved, it is called a skip step approval. That no one approved it, but it's got automatically approved. Right? Now the next is dynamic approval process. It says allocate the approvers dynamically to the record, populate the approvers in the user lookup field in the record. Okay, we have a record lookup field in that it is going to be dynamically populated from that particular field. Okay, it is going to set the approver depending on that particular field value. Okay, You got it? Okay, I have a criteria. I will remove select as none. All records. I do not want a skip step process. I want it to be I want it to be approved. Okay. Automatically assign the user field selected earlier. So this is going to dynamically assign to that particular person. Okay. Dynamic criteria it is being added with the help of this particular radio button. Okay. I've told you that automatically assignment depending on unanimous response and the first response, assigning it to the queue and submit it to the approver manually. Okay. If I select that and save it, it is going to have me or give me a value. Um, it says send an email alert. I think I'll do it later. It says that we want to send an approval email or a rejected email to that particular person. We can do so, or we can send an if I already have an email template, we have applied that and we are good to go. Okay. Now you can see we have an activate button on that particular record. We have one approval step and we are updating that particular record. Okay, we can add in the new approval step so that it becomes a multi-step approval. Okay, first step, previous approval step is this. We can have the next second approval step. Second approval step, and it's step number 2, and I'll click on next. I did some spelling mistake. We want the criteria to meet, or we want that in the same manner. We can add the amount field. If it is greater than 1K, then we can submit this step automatically, or we can specify that we need to move in further. I'll go with the amount field greater than 1K. It should, right? We have specified the step criteria, and if we go next, we can assign it to the manual or we can assign it to the queue. I'll show you the anonymous response and the first response. Okay, it should be accepted by the test user. I am going to select in and test user, and I'll select it for the second user and approve or reject based on the first response. Okay, I'll do so. I will save it. I do not want that both of them should accept it. I just want that the first person, if he selects in, then it should be approved. Okay, I will save it. I'll send an email alert later and we'll good to go. So it's a multi-step approval process. Client amount greater than this, then only it should be go to the second approval process. You got it, right? Suppose you have an amount of 1K. I'll update it. I'll show you the difference. I'll go to next. If the amount, see, if the first amount is the approval process is going to fire when you have 1000 as a criteria, right? Enter criteria was 1000. Now The second approval is going to happen when the amount is greater than 10,000, then only it's going to get to the second approver. Otherwise, it will be approved by the first criteria and we can have the things done. Okay. Now I am going to activate it and will show you the difference. Okay. It is active. Now I'll go to the clients. I'll create, I already have it opened. I'll show you the difference. I'll refresh this. Now in client, I am not specifying anything in the approval field. Since the initial submission, it is going to enter something in this field. I'll leave it as blank and I will enter the value above 1K. Okay. Email ID, I will specify mine. Okay. And I am going to save this. Now I will submit this step for approval. Got it? First approval needs to be done by whom we have selected manual chosen. So whenever we are going to click on it, submit for approval, it is going to ask us who is going to approve this step. Okay. I want the who is going to approve. I'll select as my user itself and I will send to next approver. Okay, next approver I have selected in manually. It's the first approval process. Okay, now it is me and with respect to that particular person who can see that whether I should be able to accept or reject that particular process. Okay, see what all we did specify in our first initial submission action. Lock the record from being edited. Is it locked? You can see it. It's locked. And only the admin can unlock the record and can edit it. Okay. If it is being viewed by any other person, the second person or third person who is not the system admin, he will not be able to edit the record. Since I am the system admin and I am the submitter of this particular record. Okay. And I am a system admin, so I'm able to unlock the record and can edit it. But if you are not a system admin, then this record is logged for that particular person. And the initial submission action says what we have updated a field and what we have specified in the value record submitted for approval. This is what we have specified in the field update, right? Record submitted for approval. This is what we have given in the value and we have got this. Now, if I say with the prospective of this record was being submitted to be approved by me. So in the approval history, what I am getting is approve or reject or reassign. First approval step pending for first approval. Who is going to accept or reject it? I am going to accept or reject it. Okay. What I can do is I can click on approve / reject. I approve. I have written some comment and what I can do it either approve it or reject it or cancel it. I can reassign to some other particular person. If I approve it, what happens is it is approved, right? Right? And what happened is since it didn't met the second criteria, second approval step, it didn't go to the further processes, and it directly went to the final approval action because it was being approved in step 1 and the amount was less than 10K, so it didn't get to the second approval step. And what happened is, in the final approval action we have the record logged, and what we had, the field update value as final approval done. So what we can see in the field is final approval done. Okay, it is being approved, it did the final approval process, and the person might have got the mail of that congrats for the offer. We have used that template, so I have received this as an email, right? We have added that action, we have added that particular template in that particular email. Okay, you got it. I'll go to client again and will show you in detail. First approval process, email, what we have selected in, I'll show you. Final email submission, and the template we have used in the custom first custom template. And this is what we had in the template. We have received an email, we have updated the field, and the final approval step has been done. Now I will select in the other client and I will specify the amount as greater than, I'll not specify anything in this field. I will specify the amount greater than 10K. Okay, I'll specify the email and I'm going to save it. We have selected a 5-digit number, right? Okay, it is greater than 10K, right? I will save it. Now I will submit this for approval. What is going to happen in, I will enter into the first criteria in which I will select me only as the particular step for approval. Now what happens is, it is pending under me, the object, the record is logged, record submitted for approval, the initial submission action, it is present. Okay, I approve or reject, I approve it. Now what you can see is the first approval step was approved, but did the second approval step, did it went to the final submission step? No, right? It didn't go to the final submission step. It went to the second approval step because the amount was greater than 10K. So it went to either of us, to me or to the second admin user, or to the second user that is particular present within our org. So if any of us accepts that, we have a criteria on the first response basis. If I accept or the test user accept, it is going to pass the approval process, and it, see the approval field, it also didn't change because it didn't went to the final step. It is waiting for the second step to approve, right? Normally it happens within our project also. If I have to submit a taxi fare that I need to reimburse of 1,000 bucks, I can do that. But if it increases much and my manager or the next supervisor does not have the full liberty of reimbursing me the whole amount, then it went to the project manager to reimburse that amount, right? So if I approve it, approved again, there can be different people who are going to approve it, right? In a practical scenario. So now the approval field went to the final submission, final approval done, right? Now the project, now the record is finally approved. See the two-step approval. In the previous scenario, we had only one-step approval because the amount was less and it didn't went to the second criteria. I hope you guys have understood it clearly. Practice in all the approval steps. Skip step, I have told you, dynamic approval depends on the user that is being submitting. We can have that field. Okay, right. You guys are clear with it. We can do the final rejection action also, sending an email, updating the field that the your we can update the same text field as that your claim got rejected, saying that, or you can send an email saying the same things. Hope you guys have understood the approval processes. Do practice it, and let's meet soon. Have a great week ahead. Thank you.